Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In the last video of this playlist on end-to-end project, we hosted some of the static pages of our website on S3. In today's video, we will create REST API for creating and fetching data from the backend DynamoDB table. We will create the API through API gateway. The backend of our API would be lambda functions. So let us get started. So in the last video we had done this part where we hosted a static website on Amazon S3, and in this part of the playlist we will create an API gateway API. We will create REST APIs in API gateway for login and sign up, and for CRUD operations for create, read, update, delete, record. The backend service for our project would be lambda based, so we will create two lambda functions, one for user login and sign up and another lambda function for other CRUD operations like create, read, update, delete. And then our database would be Amazon DynamoDB. So the steps would be: first we will create a DynamoDB table, then we will create backend lambda functions, create REST APIs in the API gateway, and then we will integrate all the components for end-to-end execution. So let us now go to the demo. Let me open the AWS console. So I am in my AWS console now. So in the last video we hosted our website on S3. So go to S3, and this is our bucket where we have hosted our website pages. So in the last video we uploaded these HTML files and style.css. So let us open the portal once. So we have this login page and sign up page. So in today's video we will be adding functionality to this login page and sign up page. On entering the values for sign up, we will be able to add the records into the database, and on login we will log in into the portal, and a new page will be opened which will be our dashboard, where we will give some message like welcome and then name. So let us now get started. So the first step that we would be following is we would create a DynamoDB table for our database. So go to DynamoDB table, DynamoDB service, DynamoDB. In DynamoDB we'll create a new table, tables, create table, give any name to the table, let us say backend DB. Partition key, so partition key will be an email ID which will be the unique ID, and then create table. So now we have created our backend DB database. It is still creating. So meanwhile let us now create the lambda functions. So in this architecture we have created the DynamoDB table. Now we will create the lambda functions, which are our backend services. So let me go back to AWS, open a new tab, and now we will go to the lambda service. So in lambda we are going to create two lambda functions. Create a function. So the first function is say login sign up lambda. Choose the runtime. I am writing it in Python. Create table. So the lambda function for login sign up is created. Now we need to write the code for this. I have already written the code, so let me copy paste it here and I'll explain what the code is doing. I will also provide the link to the GitHub repo page for this code. So in this code, what we are doing, we are creating a Video2 S3 resource, which is Python library, to connect to the DynamoDB table, and here we need to provide the table name. So the table name is backend DB. So here instead of test we need to provide backend DB, and then API resource. So API resource is the query parameter string that we will be getting from our REST API. We will better understand this, why do we need this API resource later on when we will create the API, REST API. And the other arguments that we will get from the REST API will be name, email ID and password. So this single lambda function will be used for sign up and login, both the functionalities. So this API resource type is needed to identify whether the API request was sign up request or login request. If the API resource is sign up, then we will call the sign up function, and in the sign up function we need name, email ID and password. So based on these query parameters, these arguments, we will put the record in the database using this table.putItem. And similarly for login, if the request type is login, we will need the arguments email ID and password, and then based on this email ID, as email ID is the primary key, we will get the item, and there are some conditions, like if item is not found, then we will get the error record with given email ID not found, and if the item is found, then we will return the record in the response. We will better understand it once I will run this code. So the purpose of this video is not to explain the Python code, but to explain how we can connect it end to end. You can write this code in any language you want, or any language in which you are comfortable. So the basically the intent of this service or this function is to handle the login and sign up requests, API requests. So deploy these changes, and then we will create another lambda function for CRUD operations. So let us name it CRUD lambda Python 3.12 create function. The function is being created. I'll copy paste the code here, which already I have written. Deploy. So in this function, what we are doing is we are fetching all records. We are calling fetch all records, where we will read all the records from our DynamoDB table and return the records. The table name for us is backend DB. So here replace the test with backend DB and deploy. So in this architecture, now we have created these two lambda functions which are our backend services. So in our 3-tier architecture, this is the first tier, the front end, this is the second tier, and this is the third tier, which is our database. So one important thing to note here is we need to modify the permissions of this lambda function. So go to configuration. This role need to be modified because this lambda function need to access the DynamoDB table. So go to this role and edit the permissions to add allow full access to DynamoDB. So we will add a new attach policies here for DynamoDB access. So for now we will give Amazon DynamoDB full access. Similarly, for another lambda function, we will attach this policy. So go to permissions, role name, attach policies, DynamoDB full access. So now our backend lambda functions are ready. Let us now create our REST APIs. Go to the API gateway service. In API gateway we will be creating REST APIs. So go to REST API, build. Let us name it E2E project APIs. Create API. So the first API resource that we will be creating will be sign up, create resource. Inside sign up resource, create method, post. Integration type will be lambda, and the lambda function that we just created, login sign up lambda. Method request settings. So in the method request settings we will validate our request query parameters. So select validate body, query string parameters and headers, and we need to provide query string parameters to our API. So first parameter will be name, which is the required field, email ID required, and password required. Create method. So this is the method request settings that we just did, URL query string parameters. Now to forward these query parameters to the backend lambda function, we need to configure the integration request. So go to integration request, edit. Here we need to specify the mapping templates. So add mapping template. Content type is application JSON. The mapping template would be email ID. We will pass the email ID to the backend lambda function. What email ID? The ID that we will get in the input from REST API from our UI. So this is the input that we will get from our UI. Email ID, name, and password. Save. and then the another API that we needed, login. So create resource login, it will not be under sign up, so let me delete this. Login should be under root. So create resource path will be root, and login, resource name is login, and the method will be get in case of login, and URL query string parameters would be email ID and password. We will log in through our UI using email ID and password. Method request settings, we need to validate the request. Create method. The lambda function, we need to choose the lambda function. So lambda function is login sign up lambda, the same lambda function. Create method. Now, as we did in the previous sign up API, we need to modify the integration request to add the mapping template. So go to mapping template, add mapping template, let me copy it here. We need to pass email ID and password to the backend lambda function and save this. Invalid path request templates. There is some error here. Let me check. Invalid patch path / request templates. Okay, content type we need to provide application JSON and save. So now we have saved it. Now for these two APIs, login and sign up, we have the same backend lambda function, login sign up lambda, and for this sign up also we have the same lambda function, login sign up lambda. So how will we identify the request in the back, where the request came from, whether the request came from the login API or from the sign up API? So for that purpose we have given this parameter API resource. So what we need to do, in the integration request mapping template, we need to provide a new parameter which will be API resource, and this API resource, through this API resource the backend lambda function can identify whether the request is sign up or login. Similarly, we will copy this and add it to the sign up API as well. So in the sign up integration request mapping template, we will add the same API resource parameter and provide sign up here. So now we have created our two APIs for login and sign up with the same backend lambda function. Now the third API that we will create would be it will be under root, get all records. So get all records would be, we will create the method get, backend lambda function is crud lambda, We don't need to pass any query string parameters for this API. This API will simply return all the records from the DynamoDB table. Then create method. Now we have created our APIs, all the 3 APIs. Let us deploy these APIs to a new stage. Let me name the stage as test and deploy. So now our APIs are ready. Let us test our APIs using Postman first, then we will integrate it with our UI. So let me open Postman tool to test these APIs. Before testing the API, I would like to tell you that I have created a separate playlist for API Gateway Service where I have explained all these concepts related to API Gateway in detail. There are a lot of videos where you can see what is the meaning of resources, methods, mapping templates, and all those things that we configured, like method request, integration request, and inside integration request we configured the mapping template. So what is the meaning of a mapping template, why do we need it? So all these things I have explained in the videos. I will provide a link to that playlist in the description box, and also the relevant videos, link for relevant videos, I will provide those. So this was a quick information about API Gateway playlist that I have in my channel. So now let us test our APIs using Postman. So in Postman, let me add a new request. Let us say sign up, duplicate, login, and third, get all records. So let us first test sign up. Invoke URL, copy this URL, paste it here. So this is a post request. So in sign up we need to provide query parameters, name, email ID, and password. Let us say our first user is Tom. Email ID is tom@gmail.com. Password can be anything, let us say 12345 for testing, and send. So we got the message sign up succeeded. You can now log in from the login screen. So let us check our DynamoDB table that the record is inserted successfully. Explore table items. Password is null. Why is the password null? Let us see. PASSWORD. There might be some mistake in the spelling. Let us verify it. Method request, PASSWORD. Integration request, mapping template. Okay, so here we need to modify this to password. Edit, mapping template. Instead of name, this third parameter is password. So after doing any changes in the API Gateway API, we need to deploy it again. So deploy the API. API is now deployed. Let me also delete this user manually. We will insert the user again. So let me open Postman again. Send. Sign up succeeded. Now let us check. Null, again null. I think the API changes are still not propagated. It takes some time. So let me delete it again, and let us wait for some time for these changes to get propagated. Meanwhile, let me also copy the other paths for login and get all records as well. So for our login, this is the API, and for login we need email ID and password. And for get all records, let me copy the invoke URL. Get all records. For get all records we don't need any query parameters. So the changes in API gateway should have been propagated now. So let us test again. Send. Let us now check the database if everything is fine. Yeah, now we have got the correct data in our database table. Let us now try to log in. So login, email ID of our user is tom@gmail.com, password is 12345, send. So in the reply we got the record name and email ID. So our API's login and sign up are working fine. Let us check get all records. Send. So get all records is also working fine. We got this record from our database through our backend lambda. So now we have tested our API through this Postman tool. Let us now add the pages of our website to the S3 bucket. So I have created some more pages. Initially in the last video what we had done was, in our website we had added these two pages only, index.html and signup.html. Now I have added these pages, dashboard.html, this is the HTML page that I have added, and some JavaScript files, login.js and signup.js. So in the index.js we have login and sign up. This is the first page, which is this one. So this is our index.js, and on clicking sign up now we get this page, signup.html. And when we enter these details, name, email ID and password, and click on sign up button, then on clicking on sign up button, this signup.js JavaScript file, function in this JavaScript file gets called. So in the signup.js we have this code for sign up, where we will be calling the REST API with the required parameters. So here we need to provide the REST API invoke URL for sign up. So let me change this to our invoke URL. So in the API gateway, sign up, copy this invoke URL and paste it here. Similarly, for login we have this login.js, where we need to provide the invoke URL for login API. So let me copy the invoke URL, paste it here in the JavaScript. So from this HTML page, using JavaScript we are calling the REST API for sign up and login. Now save this and we will upload these files to our S3 bucket. So go to S3, objects, upload, add files. Let me upload all the files again. Upload. Succeeded. Okay. I will provide all these files in the GitHub repository and will provide a link in the description box. So again, refresh this. So now let us try to log in using our first user that we had created, tom@gmail.com, password, and login. An error occurred, please try again. So what is the error? Let us see. Let us debug it. Access to fetch at this from origin blocked by CORS policy. So we got the error related to cross origin resource sharing policy. So what is cross origin resource sharing policy? What is this error? So this error is from this website, from this domain. Internally we are calling the REST API, which is in different domain of API gateway. So that API gateway is being called from a different origin. So in the API gateway we need to enable CORS for these APIs. So let us go to API gateway, resources, login, enable CORS, save. And similarly for sign up, enable CORS, save. Similarly we will do it for get all records. Now every time we make any changes to the API, as we know, we need to deploy the API again. So deploy to test stage and deploy. So now our API is modified and deployed again. It will take some time to propagate these changes. So let us wait for some time, say 15-20 seconds. Let's now try to log in again. Write the password, login. So now we are able to log in. We are in our user dashboard where we got the message welcome Tom, and we have this logout button. We can log out it. Now let us sign up another user for our website. So let us say our another user is Harry and the email ID is harry@yahoo.com. Sign up. We got the message sign up succeeded. You can now log in from the login screen. So let us try to log in for Harry. Yeah, it is working fine. Welcome Harry. Let us now sign up for one more user. Let us say Julie. Sign up succeeded. Login now. Welcome Julie. So we have successfully integrated our front end with the backend and database using API gateway. So let us now also verify or check our database. We have all the records here, and in the API gateway we had created 3 APIs. So we just tested login and sign up. So for get all records we have still not done anything in the UI. So let us just check the get all records through Postman. So here you can see we got the 3 records that we inserted from the UI. So with this we are towards the end of the video. So in this video what we did is we created our front end APIs in the API gateway and the backend lambda functions and the database. So in the next part of the video what we'll be doing is we will be using Cognito service for authentication, for login and sign up, and also as a user database, which is a better approach for authentication. So Cognito is an IDP service provided by AWS. So what we will be doing in the next video is we will be removing this part of login sign up. We will remove this lambda function, and instead of this lambda we will be using the Cognito service. So this was all about in this video. If you like the video, please hit the like button and leave your comments, any valuable feedback or suggestions about the video, or what else you would like to see, or what else you would like me to make video on. And if you have not already subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. Thank you.